1978, Hong Kong. A famous South Korean actress, Cho Eun-hee, vanishes from a beach. No ransom note. No body, just a void in the air. Months later, she wakes up in a luxury villa in Pyongyang. A short man with a bouffant hairstyle and platform shoe greets her with a chilling smile. "I am your host," he says. This wasn't a kidnapping for money. It was a kidnapping for art. Welcome to the most elaborate stage ever built. This is the story of Kim Jong-il, the man who realized that to control a nation's body, you must first direct its dreams. Today, we dissect the manufactured reality of Kim Jong-il. This is not a history lesson. This is an autopsy of a cult. To understand the sun, you must understand the shadow. Kim Jong-il was born into the ultimate grandiosity gap, a term coined by psychologist Elsa Roningstam. Legend says he was born on Mount Pagtu, signaled by a double rainbow. Reality: he was born in a freezing Soviet camp, while his father hid from the Japanese. This discrepancy between the mediocre reality and the divine expectation creates a psychological fracture. If the world isn't perfect, you don't change yourself, you change the world. He was obsessed with Hollywood. Rambo, Godzilla, Friday the 13th. He owned over 20,000 films. While his people starved, he was studying the grammar of emotion. He realized something terrifying: a nation is just an audience, and an audience can be manipulated if you control the script. This is our first cognitive reversal. Kim Jong-il wasn't a politician who liked movies. He was a film director who happened to run a country. Why do they cry? Is it love? Is it fear? Or is it something deeper? To find out, we look at the Asch conformity experiment. When everyone around you insists that a short line is long, your brain eventually stops seeing the truth and starts seeing the consensus. In North Korea, there is no other opinion. The consensus is the air you breathe. If you don't cry, you are the glitch in the movie. And the director hates glitches. He started by rewriting the past. He didn't just build statues. He built a hyper-reality. Enter Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra. This is a state where the copy becomes more real than the original. The Potemkin village wasn't just a facade for tourists. It was a psychological anchor for the citizens. If we look like a superpower, we must be one. He wrote a treatise on cinema. In it, he argued that the director is the supreme soul of the collective. He wasn't talking about movies. He was talking about himself. He mandated that every home have a portrait. He mandated that it be cleaned with a special cloth. He became the invisible guest at every dinner table. This is psychological priming. By saturating the environment with his image, he bypassed the conscious mind and moved straight into the subconscious. He forced his kidnapped stars to make Pulgasari, a North Korean Godzilla. Why? Because he wanted to prove he could master the Western language of spectacle. He was the ultimate fanboy with a nuclear arsenal. But the director had a dark side. A script requires a villain. Without an enemy, the cult of personality collapses. He needed the existential threat to justify the suffering. This leads us to the Stockholm Syndrome at a national scale. It's also called traumatic bonding. In the 1990s, the manufactured reality hit a wall. The Great Famine, up to 5 million dead. How does a regime survive this? By reframing. He didn't call it a famine. He called it the arduous march. He turned starvation into a test of faith. He used cognitive dissonance, Alain Festinger. If you suffer this much for a leader, and then admit he is a failure, your brain will break. To protect your sanity, you convince yourself the suffering is noble. This is the second cognitive reversal. He didn't survive the famine despite the suffering. He survived because of it. Pain is a powerful tool for bonding. The mass games, 100,000 people performing as a single organism. No individuals, only the grand narrative. If you miss a step, you don't just fail yourself, you fail the god. The psychological pressure is equivalent to being a cell in a body that the brain wants to excise. He was terrified of flying. He lived in an armored train, moving between secret palaces. He was a prisoner of the very paranoia he cultivated. He became the panopticon, Jeremy Bentham's prison design where one guard can watch everyone, but no one knows when they are being watched. Look at this map. The darkness isn't just a lack of electricity. It's a lack of information entropy. By cutting off the noise of the outside world, he created a sensory deprivation chamber for an entire race. In the dark, the only light is the one he provides. He wasn't just one person. He was a multi-faceted archetype. This is Jungian psychology weaponized. He replaced the biological father with the great leader. In the hierarchy of needs, he moved himself to the very bottom. Survival itself was a gift from him. He was an experimentalist of the soul. He wanted to see how far a human could be bent before they snapped. In 1986, his star prisoners escaped. They told the world about the man who lived in a cinematic dreamscape. How did he react? He didn't chase them. He simply erased them from the official script. If it's not in the movie, it never happened. This is the Orwellian memory hole, but deeper. It's the erasure of the self. When the state is everything, the self is a crime. This is the ultimate goal of any cult, the dissolution of the ego into the collective. We laugh at his appearance. The world saw a meme, but look closer. These are identity signifiers. The hair, the shoes, the suits, they were designed to make him recognizable from a mile away. He was a brand. But what happens when the brand faces the truth? What happens when the director realizes his movie is a tragedy? 2011. The eternal director meets a very human end on his train. The world watched this and thought they are brainwashed. But is it that simple? This is performative grief. In a manufactured reality, if you don't perform, you die. But if you perform long enough, the mask grows into your skin. The script had a sequel. The god died, but the god ahead must live on. This is the third cognitive reversal. Kim Jong-il's greatest achievement wasn't his life. It was his death. He successfully turned a family into a metaphysical constant. Today, the manufactured reality is evolving. It's no longer just about statues. It's about digital isolation. They have smartphones. They have apps. But they are digital islands. The walls are no longer stone. They are code. The cinema of madness has become the cyber warfare of madness. The director's legacy is a state that exists as a glitch in the global system. Why did he do it? Was it just power? Or was it a deep-seated fear of being ordinary? Psychologically, Kim Jong-il was likely a malignant narcissist. He needed the world to be his mirror because his internal self was empty. When a narcissist runs a country, the country becomes his external ego. 25 million people were forced to be his psychological support system. He drank a 700,000 worth of Hennessy a year while his ego, the people, withered away. 就 self-reliance, the ultimate irony. A nation that relies entirely on the whims of one man's psyche. The history of Kim Jong-il is a warning. It shows that reality is a fragile consensus. Are we so different? We live in our own algorithm, manufactured realities. Both use echo chambers. Both use confirmation bias. Both aim to direct your internal movie. The techniques he pioneered in the 70s are the blueprints for the attention economy today. He was the most successful influencer in history. He had 25 million followers who couldn't unsubscribe. The lights are coming up. The movie is over. But the audience is still sitting in the dark, afraid to leave. What happens when the manufactured reality finally breaks? The psychological trauma of deprogramming an entire nation will be the greatest challenge of the 21st century. Kim Jong-il taught us that truth is subjective if you have enough power to silence the objective. Hannah Arendt said, "The ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced Nazi or communist, but people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction no longer exists." He was the pioneer of the post-truth world. He realized that if you repeat a lie often enough, it doesn't become the truth, it becomes reality. He turned a country into a gated community of the mind. His ghost still rides those rails. The manufactured reality outlived its creator. The son learned well. The director is dead. Long live the showrunner. For those who escape, the hardest thing isn't finding food. It's finding a self that isn't a character in Kim's movie. This is the cost of a manufactured reality, the slow, systematic strangulation of human potential. He wanted to be a legend. He became a nightmare. He wanted to be a god. He became a ghost. But in the end, every movie must end, and the credits always roll in silence. Power is not just the ability to control actions. It is the ability to define what is real. History will remember the director as a madman, but psychology remembers him as a master of the human shadow. Ask yourself, who is directing the movie you are living in? Are you the lead actor, or just an extra in someone else's manufactured reality? If you want to dive deeper into the dark machinery of the soul, subscribe to Psyche of Power. Don't let the directors win. Stay awake, stay real. Until next time.